welcome everybody. We'll call the meeting to order. We can do introductions of you guys maybe once we hit the Longfellow Tunnel. Any other items not on the agenda? All right, consideration of the minutes of September 2nd.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Moving right along to updates.
Updates. Let's see, and Steve, feel free to jump in on the oracles. I attended, and Steve attended the conversation. Andrea Truitt was at the reception and had a few comments that she contributed. But reception, I think, when Wendy was there too, really went well. It was just a very upbeat and lively and well-attended event, and everybody there seemed very engaged and positive about the project. Was that your impressions?
Yeah. I'd say there were probably about maybe close to 100 people, do you think?
I would say.
Maybe a
Yeah.
little under 100 people at the reception. It was good.
And the mayor said a few words. The major focus, which I think it should have been, was on the Black Joy, and they had a fabulous theater arts group of Black students, 4 students who were doing a poetry slam type thing that was talking about Black Joy, and it was just really, really well done. It was fun. The conversation. Go ahead.
I was curious, is there going to be any documentation of that? Like, was there
Fred's doing
some
it.
We
video?
have photos. Did Fred videotape?
Yeah, I think he was. I think he was there in time for that. It was a little bit late, but I think he got there for that.
Yeah, and Jack Brooks was there with, and he took lots of photos. I just don't know about the videotaping, but it was pretty special.
See.
And the conversation, Steve, did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was a lot of other community events going on during that time slot, so I thought I was pretty impressed with how many people showed up. There was probably 25 people or so.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, we gave a little overview of the public process, and some of the Oracle's team gave an overview of the process, or of the, the concept behind the art and their process. And we watched the video that was produced to kind of kick it off, and then there was just kind of open conversation, and there was really good engagement from everyone. It took I think we went a little over the hour and a half it was scheduled for, and it was great.
Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody there, as not unexpected, was very supportive of the mural and engaged with wanting to continue on the conversation and figure out ways that particularly the white community can maybe get together more and discuss how to work beyond their racial biases and acknowledge white privilege and a few other things. So
yeah, there were a few people that mentioned they were there to kind of they liked the mural, and they wanted to have the right words to represent it well to their neighbors who may or may not, or who were more skeptical of it or something. So, yeah, everyone there was really liked it. And
let's see, the Opening Doors exhibit that you heard from last month, they have decided to defer that probably till next spring. So I just wanted to update you real quickly about that. They're going to put the doors in storage and figure things out later on. And then the resource management building, Sandy was a part of the paint team on there, and I also attended for the last shift, the next to the last shift. And I would say probably about 80% of it got done that day. I went back yesterday just to take a look to see how things were going, because Erica Danner, the artist, is responsible for finishing it up. And it's apparent that she's been putting some time into it. So it's, I would say, in terms of the broad painting and filling in all the spaces, that's pretty well completed. And hopefully by next Friday, which is the deadline, she'll have it all done and all the detail work put into it. But if you haven't seen it, I'd encourage you to stop by and go take a look at it.
Everything?
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to the Longfellow pedestrian tunnel. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves and?
I'm Dr. Arnone, the art teacher.
Come on up.
Should I pass these around?
Yeah, you'll need to speak in, just so we get it on the recording. Speak into yours.
Into
Yeah,
your microphone.
You'll need to speak in the
Yeah,
microphone.
I'm Dr. Arnone.
Yeah. Did you want me to show the images?
Sure.
And which one are you going to do first? That one? Oops.
Yeah, maybe pass that around too.
There we
Oh, that's
go.
better.
Should I turn the lights down more? Put you in the dark. I think I have to hold it down.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Now you can see it.
So there's
We
still
can't see
some
you, but
issues
you-
with the color. Melody wants you to know. You want to introduce yourself?
My name is Melody.
And Raina, do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Raina.
She is the other one. Do you want to ask questions one at a time or see them both first and then?
Oops.
So can each of you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to make these designs?
Go first. They're the figures you're drawing all the time. So they're like, getting used to talking about their artwork. They're figures you draw all the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could just say that.
They're personal characters that I draw in my free time, so I wanted to put that there.
Okay. Raina, do you want to talk about where did you get the idea for your character? Yeah. It's okay.
I honestly don't know 100% what inspired me. It kind of came to my mind, and I didn't have enough time to finish it, but the other side was going to incorporate kind of more of a darker side to life, like death and sadder things that happened, I guess.
Some of these skulls going the other way.
Yeah.
So we were talking too about because that's not quite a long composition. So she was just saying maybe skulls going the other way. Flowers going one way in the tunnel, and then.
Can you show us the mask you brought? Is that part of your
No,
design?
that's-
Oh, okay.
No, but it's actually both students. What you see in their work up here represents their other work too. Like it all goes together. They have a really good body of work. So that reminds me a lot of the figure there. Do you want?
Marcia, when's the schedule to paint it?
We're going to go next Friday.
Oh, it is. Great.
It's already repainted because my principal got an email from a concerned citizen about how somebody painted our stuff over and they were totally blaming the city and totally mad. That why would they do that, and wanting to know if we were going to be back. The prices went up on the internet, at least.
Is that
for
your budget?
The prices went up for the paint, so I have a new thing.
Yeah,
can
I
use.
imagine. Can you still get it?
Yeah.
I was looking for spray paint just for myself, and there's
Oh.
just none anywhere. Yeah. Okay, well, the committee allocated $400, and it's $400.60, so I think we can probably handle that.
Do you guys have any other questions for us? at all?
So next Thursday?
Next Friday, actually.
Friday.
Yeah, because my student teacher has that day off and she wants to go, so.
Okay. All right. I got to secure the van.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and a porta potty.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other questions? Feel free to come down and check us out. There's lots of walkers that go through all day long, so the kids are used to it by the time you guys would come through, so. Okay.
Yeah, it's very nice. Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Bye, we're done. Thank you.
Okay. I'll be in touch,
you.
Rachel. We'll get the details. Thank you.
How many of you are artists, working artists, or artists? I told them some of you were. Okay. Just want to make sure I wasn't lying. Thank you.
All right.
They didn't. I don't, the students didn't expect this type of venue. When they walked in earlier, it was like, oh. So I feel badly for them.
At least we're not up there.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to the Oracle's budget request.
Yeah, I can kind of go over that. As the Oracle's project was finishing, we started getting some little, let's call them red flags from John that they were going over budget for a couple reasons. One is the westernmost painting required a lot more paint than they expected because it's actually a much taller frame to work within. So they had to buy extra paint for that. They also had to switch to a more expensive scissor lift, or maybe it's not even a scissor lift if it's a different kind of lift that was harder to find and more expensive to get, but safer feeling for the artist. So, and then lastly, they had planned on traffic control, but didn't realize that it was required to be done by a professional traffic controlling firm, and that expense alone was $2,400. So in all, they went over budget about $11,000, and are asking if the city could help fill in some of the gap on that. And I spoke to Jeff Fruin about it, thinking perhaps there was some funds in some of my area of the budget that could work for that. But he felt that we should keep the expenses for the Oracles coming out of public art, just to be able to better track those expenses. And he was on board with helping, but thought that because there were at least 3 organizations who put it together, perhaps helping with 1/3 of that amount would be the way to go. So the bottom line of my Excel sheet didn't print off, but I think it turns out to be, is it $3,800?
Little bit, yeah.
About $3,800 of a request, which would be 1/3.
Is that right?
That's the older one, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
It
that's
probably
okay.
is. Yeah.
Anyway, so there you have it. They are asking from the Public Art Advisory Committee for an additional, I want to say, $3,800.
Should we just take that into consideration when we're looking at next year's budget, or do we want to make a separate motion just on that?
For the budget, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm wondering, should we make a motion just on this issue, or just take it into the consideration that they're requesting that amount when we look at the overall budget for next year?
I think that's reasonable. Yeah, I don't know that you need to make that decision right now.
Okay.
But I imagine they need the money now, right? So if we're going to prolong our budget discussion beyond this meeting, then I think we should probably have a separate motion to approve this now.
That would be
Can you
fine.
remind me how is the project funded how is the Oracle's project funded? I know there's multiple entities involved. I just don't recall.
Overall, you're saying?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I mean,
the
there were
overall
two
project.
major funding sources. One was the 30,000 from Public Art, and the other was the
Okay.
12.5 from the University Office of Research and Development. I've never quite got that right, but Yeah, so those were really the only two funding sources. And they've alluded to that they're continuing to do fundraising. How that's going, I don't know, but it's a considerable amount of overage.
Sure.
That was unexpected.
What was the total cost on that project? What was it supposed to be? I don't remember.
The entire project, they had it set at $41,500 to meet the amount of money they had available.
Okay, so they went over by 4. Okay.
I mean, my only observation is it was a large project. It was located on a state highway. The height put a whole different dynamic into it because the artist didn't feel safe with the traffic that was traveling on Burlington with the original configuration. That was just an arm lift that had a large vehicle base that, Ron, you could probably explain a little bit better. But the concern was that with all the traffic going by, if anybody lost control or got distracted, that they might possibly hit the main base vehicle part. And just, I think, the sheer wind and that type of thing, it just
The
made
hill.
Lucky.
The hill was a big thing.
And the hill.
And another part, I believe, are the vinyl wraps that
Yes.
we have insisted that they do that are going to cost $2,000, and that was not originally budgeted in the project.
It
Is that
wasn't,
correct?
no.
Yeah. So that put, that's 2,000 of the 11,000 overage they had as well.
And we have that funding available, right? That's not earmarked for anything else right now in this current year budget? Do we have that?
Yeah.
At least the 3,800, we have at least that much that's not earmarked for anything else right now? Is
Oh,
that?
yeah.
We
I'd
have
make
a
motion
$12,000 carryover from last year, is that right?
Right, and
Yeah.
yeah, well, I can show you the bottom line.
So go
We've
ahead,
got-
Sandy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll make a motion to approve the $3,800 to cover the overages for the Oracles of Iowa City.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
So was that.
And just, that's a third of the overages, but yeah. Okay, so moving on to continued discussion of our FY22 fund allocation.
Okay, I'm hoping that what we've pulled together here might help with some decision-making. I know last month we talked about the survey results and how we could somehow boil that information down to something that was usable, that we could actually align it with some type of either projects or some type of focus. I went to Anna Clauser, my intern, who actually compiled all the data and went through all the comments individually and with much scrutiny for her to present just kind of an outline of what she felt were the high priority items. And so those items turned out to be, let me walk through this a little bit more detail. This information up here basically goes through to tell you what we've done, what we have available in terms of the budget. So the carryover amount from FY21 is $12,600. We have $50,000 budgeted for FY22. So the total that would be available for FY22 public art funding is $62,600. Over the last 2 or 3 months, the committee has also talked about committing matching funds and neighborhood art funding, primarily focused in the South District. And those two items are over here, $20,000 for the matching funds and $12,000 for the South District neighborhood art.
Is that 12,600 accurate after the last motion of 3,800?
I'm sorry, after the,
We just took $3,800 from that, didn't we? From the fiscal year 2021?
We could, no,
Oh.
that reflects before your vote just
Okay.
now.
Yeah,
So
no.
we could take the 3,800 off the 12,600.
That's what I was.
yeah.
Okay.
No, that's all, there was, I don't have the detail here, but there was maintenance funding. There was just some leftover funding from matching funds, and I'm sorry, I can't, there was probably about $8,000. There was the $2,000 that was set aside for the artist registry that we didn't utilize. So it was kind of a hodgepodge of
Okay.
different numbers.
So we could change the 12,600 to 8,800.
Okay.
What do I
And,
do?
yeah, I mean, I think it would give us a clearer picture
Yeah.
since you voted to,
8,800?
that's what I got. So it'd be 12,600 minus 3,800. Did I do it wrong?
8,200?
8,800.
I'm not being able to make the,
Oh,
You're in protected mode?
well, it says it's an
It's
unlicensed.
unlicensed, yeah.
That's not going to be
that
good.
happens all the time, though. How do we
Mhm.
get around that in council meetings and such? Shoot. All right. Not sure what to do.
Sorry, many features turned off. To use these features, close Excel and sign in with your Office 365. No thoughts? Internet. Fabulous. There is internet.
Really, we have, let's just say we had 27,000 available to commit, give or take, in that yellow.
26,800.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not letting me do anything.
Weird. I don't get that.
Sorry about that.
Well, that's the big picture, and then, so, using using sort of Anna's synopsis of what came in, Marcia then put together the priorities in those categories, right? So below the line there, the priority projects expressed in the survey ranking would be gateways and/or an airport mural, or an airport mural, which is a gateway entry. Next, parks and trails, a community participatory piece. The next category were priority projects expressed in the survey comments. That would be in the unexpected art, functional art, and performing arts categories. And then finally, other, the sculpture showcase, adding 2 more pads, I think it was, and additional funds or additional work to follow on the Oracles project and maintenance. We thought we'd be real tricky and be able to change those numbers around in this meeting, but apparently we're not able to do that.
I mean, I can try to go up and grab it again and save it, but,
don't
and
know.
work from
I've
a
seen
flash
that.
drive.
I've seen that message
I think
in
the
this
issue,
room.
the issues with the program, it's not, the issues with the,
Defined.
yeah, so even if you had a different version of the spreadsheet, it wouldn't work.
It won't. Well,
Well, I think we can still talk about the amounts, and, you know, we're all smart enough, we can probably add things up in a hurry and be pretty good knowing that we have, was it 26,700 to work with?
I'm going to try to get into my email. what to do here.
Yeah, typo in there.
She's here. I can go check. I think we better close her down.
Would that still enable you to use that product, though? Even if she logged out?
We need her login to be able to activate the Microsoft is a problem, because she's the one that's logged in the computer.
You want to go see? I'll go see if she's here.
Yeah.
You log out from down there?
Just completely shut down, yeah.
That was on the, okay, you want to try to log in? There you go. Just log in, try to log in. See if that'll work.
Sorry about this.
Well, maybe it has to be Civic backslash.
Oh, maybe.
Shouldn't have to be.
Did you guys break it?
It shouldn't be this complicated.
No.
No.
Let me go up and see if Jessica's there. I don't know if that'll help.
Maybe we could just go through the priorities and just
Yeah.
say are those the priorities we want.
Yeah, it's not, that Excel sheet doesn't have a whole lot of calculation on it. We're just basically looking at round numbers in thousands of dollars, and we can work with that, I think, although now we have to.
We won't be able to. You're logged out.
I thought for sure we've done this before like this and didn't have
Yeah.
issues.
We did last time. Should we turn the lights back on, or no?
Yeah, just push.
This one?
That's the projector, just.
Oh.
Sorry, I wonder if we can get into the artist registry. Or we can talk about the ARPA work.
Can you even get to the internet, though, or a browser?
The ARPA letter is included in the packet, right?
Yeah.
We could skip to that one real quick.
But what's in the packet doesn't reflect.
The latest.
The latest either.
Oh, you're right. Oh. Did you guys get a chance to see the latest copy of the ARPA letter that Marcia sent out, I
today.
think today? Yeah.
Yeah, does anybody need a hard copy of, what did I do with all of those?
They're on the back of this, right? Or did you get the new one? Did you make copies of the new one?
I did. Where did they go? Is somebody- Oh, maybe I forgot to grab them. Do you have one? Who does not have one? There you go. I just sent one out like about
This?
noon or so, or before noon. Yeah, with the bullet points. Nancy, don't you all have one? Okay. So, let's see, made some adjustments based on some input, cleaned it up primarily in the first paragraph, just to streamline it a little bit more about what the impact on COVID has been on the arts community. Narrowed down the WPA language a little bit more, but primarily focused in on bullet pointing all of those items that we felt might be a reasonable use of ARPA funding. Adding in, and this is only because with the completion of oracles, it's become obvious that there's a number of steps that we would, as part of the continuing program, that we'd like to see occur, that additional funding would be good to have for. So say, for instance, providing more opportunities for BIPOC artists, and then most importantly, figuring out how we can host continued conversations. And again, that's not necessarily a public art project. It's more of a process that possibly the Human Rights Commission or other entities would be willing to get involved in. The community conversation last weekend was hosted through the library, and I know that's one of their primary focuses, is to continue to have those types of events. So I included that as well, because I wanted them to have something that they could tangibly.
This is the most recent copy then, right? It's got the oracles in here.
Yep.
Yeah, it's on the packet that you copied out.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So depending upon, I get the idea is that we'd like to get this moving and submitted to the city manager's office at some point. So if there's any additions, you want me to, just my Ann Bollinger?
I'm sorry, what does BIPOC mean?
It means Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
This may be a dumb question, but, so these comments that were sent, the colored comments,
Those are the survey responses.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I don't know what they have to do necessarily with this letter. If they have anything to do with it, they may not have
Those were
anything at all.
about the allocation of next year's budget, so separate.
They were what?
Those were, the survey was about the allocation of next year's budget.
Okay.
So not about the survey, or not about the, this letter. The letter is about the ARPA funds.
Although there were a number of responses that had to do with the BIPOC community and
Okay.
providing more art opportunities.
And somebody tell me if I'm way off here, but I can't read these and not see that there's not an opportunity for maybe us to, can we incorporate the two? Like, can we add some of these things that they want?
So what you're
Into
saying
this?
is using the priorities from the survey included in the request for the ARPA funds. Is that?
Well,
Well, and the ARPA funds are a little bit more narrow. They need to be used specifically for projects that were impacted because of COVID, because of recovery funds. So I think we have to argue that, yeah.
well, I was just thinking, I saw a bunch of stuff on murals in here, like 12 different comments. But then we're talking about murals in this letter. It seems that people really like the murals. Should we be narrowing down this language to just say, just expand the mural idea that we have going, or incentive?
Whether it's, we need to use the ARPA funding memo to bring that out, I guess is the question. Murals obviously do have some support. There's also people who also said no more murals too.
I saw that.
But I think that's probably more appropriate to be included as part, if you specifically want a mural, that should probably be within the FY22 budget allocation. To provide additional art opportunities to BIPOC communities as part of the ARPA request, that would be up to the artist to decide what kind of art project they wanted to create. And it may or may not be murals.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. I was just asking, I didn't know.
No, so we're just a little bit more narrow on what we can do with the ARPA funds.
Okay.
I think the edits you made are really, really strong. Are there any other comments or feedback on the letter, or do we, as a committee, feel like this is representative of our stance and recommendation? And can we have a motion to approve sending this on to the city manager's office?
The Rachel's name spelled wrong at the top, just so we get that corrected.
I don't think I have the letter. It's not in this, right?
It's on the very back
It's
page.
it's the
of
very
that.
back, last page.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
I'll make the motion to approve this letter and send it as the committee's recommendation.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Marcia. Are we,
Hopefully Tavo shows up with something.
Yeah.
oh, we don't have a computer.
We're way ahead of schedule, if nothing else, let's put it that way, so I think we'll be fine, but sorry
Is
about
there
the
an
delay.
update on the artist registry?
Nancy wanted to bring it up on the screen.
Oh.
And-
How's the
I
mobile?
mean, I think we could, if you want to, we can talk tangentially about it if any of you have anything off the top of your head or, have something specific you could talk to. I know last month, Nancy, we talked about potentially working with a private
Web designer.
a web designer to create something that's a little bit more sophisticated and maybe a little bit more usable. That would take some funding to do. I mean, the other caveat is that we're also going to be hopefully transitioning to a new city website, although that can take years occasionally, and probably are not really sure what the capacity for that new program is in terms of coming up with something a little bit more interesting. And Ron, did you want to share, to throw it into the mix?
Right. I mean, so our last meeting, we had some discussion about the artist registry and the limitations that were on it in regards to Iowa City artists. And I had an opportunity to speak with the city manager, and I think he's willing to expand it to the artists within the corridor. Obviously, going much larger than that, it's basically a completely different database at that point. But at least expanding it to something greater than the Iowa City only residents would be good.
I think Johnson County would be a good parameter.
Okay.
I mean, it's easy to define, and so many people work and spend money in Iowa City who are Johnson County residents, and that,
Nancy, you're saying you prefer keeping it smaller than, like, the corridor would include people in Cedar Rapids, and you don't want
yeah, I think
artists
Cedar
from Cedar
Rapids
Rapids
has
on
their
it.
own public art business and entity.
Yeah.
So Johnson County, I don't think Coralville doesn't have one yet, so, and it's easy to define.
Okay.
Bethel, can we use that laptop over there? So I'm sorry, Nancy, you said you did, or you would prefer to keep it to Johnson County?
Yeah, I think Cedar Rapids has their own public art entity and funding and programs. So Johnson County, Iowa City, Johnson County, Coralville is probably a place where some attention needs to be, and our budget is so tiny. It's just, you know, it's like being an art consultant at the Mercy Hospital. The nuns walking across the country to make a hospital, and then our public art, our art budget there was, you know, making something out of nothing all the time, and I see that's what we're doing here. It's just so much work and public input for, you know, $50,000 for Johnson County. An annual budget is still very small. And I also don't think we've included enough emphasis on painters, you know, people who are not performers. So there's a lot of work to be done here.
How do you envision distinguishing painters from other categories of art on a website like that?
I think artists who need to have an exhibition space that's stable, just like performers need a stage, or, you know,
So
that's how they integrate into the community. Like the Englert has a stage for musicians and performers. And
okay, so now you're going beyond the artist registry topic then and talking about.
oh, yeah, I thought the question
global.
was a little broader. I thought we were waiting for this. Yeah, I'm sorry if I got
that's
off
okay.
the train there. But you said, how do visual artists?
Yeah, I thought you were talking about we need to give more.
Oh, for the registry?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that
Painters,
does,
but-
that's a separate issue.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's a separate issue.
So the agenda item we're focusing on right now is the artist registry, and just the fact that we can expand it from Iowa City to Johnson County. Is that,
Mhm.
but are we waiting to see if, like, hire a public, or a separate third-party consultant to, like, make it a more user-friendly website? Or is that something city staff would take on
Well,
to incorporate?
I think I think city staff has kind of done what they can do on the registry that we have now. So we would need to consider going with an outside consultant on that. Yet it's a little early because we don't have the new city website, and the two will definitely need to be able to talk to each other and be secure from each other. So it's too early, basically, to do that, in my estimation. But you know, there's no reason we can't talk about what would make it, the one we have, better, and just note those things for when city website is at least figured out. And we could also begin to kind of get an idea of the scope that what we want would cost from a third-party consultant. There'd be no reason why we couldn't find that out in the
I
meantime.
appreciate it.
And that would help planning, budgeting, that kind of thing. Did you get in?
I did. Call the expert. Thanks, Ron, for your
Yep.
help. Except now this isn't adjusting necessarily. If I lower that.
So,
I think, is that what you said, 8,800?
yeah.
But it's not.
Oh, it wasn't in the
Yeah,
formula.
so
The ones
why
below.
don't- Why don't we just add that in?
Okay.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
And it was 12.
You had 12,600 there.
12,600, yep, 12,600.
12.6. Got it?
Push
Are
the
we back?
button.
Are you trying to turn it off? You want to turn it off?
Yes.
It's very touchy.
Okay, and then, so we gotta minimize that. Here, why don't we switch? places?
Shall we switch?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay.
All right. Wendy can drive. Okay, so where were we? I kind of lost track because you did some summarizing too, Wendy.
Yeah, okay, so, we have $30,600 to work with.
Do we want to finish the
right?
artist registry discussion before we move on to this?
Good thought.
Did-
What was that?
So we
Ron
were
asked-
having discussion about the artist registry,
Oh, okay.
right? And so should we finish that discussion before we move back to the budget?
That's a good
to move
idea.
back? Okay.
Yeah. So I had talked about what we could do in terms of getting a new artist registry. First, I said that what we have is probably as good as it can get, even with our new website. Second, I said if we want something better, we would have to bring in a third-party consultant. So it's not too early to at least get an idea of what the cost for that kind of expense would be. But it is too early to do any integration because we don't know what they have to integrate with, given that we're going to have a new website for
Oh,
the city
okay.
soon. So,
So it seemed to me like we had come to the conclusion we wanted to expand the current one though to all Johnson County artists. So we could do a motion for that and then have further discussion once more is known about the city website changes. Is that?
Well, I'll make a motion to expand the public art registry to Johnson County residents, if that's appropriate.
Second.
And that is something that the city staff that built it is able to accommodate. We can just open it up, send out a press release or something that it's open to all Johnson County residents and hopefully get some more people to.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that'd be a problem. I mean, if we expanded at this point, then we'd be entering all that information on the existing website, which
Yeah.
is still functional.
Mhm.
It's just not necessarily as
Accessible.
engaging as it could be.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
all right.
And
So now where were we?
but was there additional information that Nancy had that we wanted to discuss
Oh.
in regards to the artist registry?
Well, that's up to you, Nancy,
Well,
because did you
no, I
have?
think, my concern, my interest in looking at it together was from a few months ago, so that you could, I find it kind of difficult to find and all that, and then I just was going to go through it with you to see how we all feel about how it functions, but this is something we can do when we renovate it with the new system. So I was happy as a participant on that artist registry to get an invitation from the Iowa Arts Festival this year, but that's the only contact I've had, or from that, and I'm sure that's because of Andrea's, knowing about it. So I don't know if anybody else, Eddie, are you registered?
No, not yet.
Has, received any
I know additional outreach is necessary, and I'm sure we could recruit probably more artists to register. I just didn't want to go through with that if we were going to be changing
Yeah,
things
yeah.
significantly and where that direction was going.
And I guess I had a question for PS1, since they are also registered as an organization. And their artists that they have, I don't know if they're registered as individual artists on, and maybe you can speak to this. So I know that maybe PS1 then disseminates the information to their artists, but their artists aren't necessarily visible on the registry.
I can't speak to that. I think it's registered as or I would assume registered as an organization
Right.
to the extent of like getting notifications that are relevant to the organization itself. So
Right.
like, I know it's applied for matching funds for some of its institutional programming.
Well, maybe you could encourage the artists who are on their list to also individually apply, because that's 80 artists or so.
Well,
whom
Nancy,
did not
I
see.
did reach out to Public Space One and any other arts organization to encourage their membership to also register individually.
Good.
So it's, it's very voluntary. I don't know from the artists that we do have on there whether they are part of, Public Space One's network or not. So it's really hard to tell how effective that was. But regardless, I still notify them and other arts organizations to share information. So I'm assuming it goes out through those channels as well. So it's just kind of like a funnel.
I was going to say, I'm looking at the registry right now and I'm seeing names of artists who participate in PS1 activities.
Oh, good.
So I can't say like what percentage of
Yeah.
Yeah.
PS1 volunteers
No, I
are
think there's a few.
a
Yeah.
part of it, but
Yeah, I forgot. I think we're up to about 130 or so artists. They're still coming in slowly for registrations, but when I say artists, that's organizations, that's individual artists. I don't have it broken down. But again, as you all know, the website's limited in terms of its capacity and in terms of its presentation. The database still needs some additional work done to it to make that a little bit more practical, I think,
Yeah.
for most people to use.
I mean, I guess if we did look at it, I wanted to know if it was linked. I haven't paid attention to this since I was last at a meeting, so I haven't gone back and looked at the website, but I can't remember if it's linked to artists' websites. I mean,
It is, if you go, there's a photograph in the browsable section, there's a photograph, and then there's also their name, and if you click on the name, it goes to their
I haven't seen
website.
that browsable section. Are you looking for it, Wendy?
I can't, I'm trying to find a browser to use. I don't know what this one is, but it's,
I guess the reason I would like to go through it
That's
is to
Edge.
see how you actually go through it. Because I find it obtuse. And I'm lucky I didn't have to say it before the Little Village
Yeah.
published it from their own findings, and I didn't talk to anybody about it.
Yeah, and I think possibly, just some different explanation. I mean, the name is obviously an active link because it's blue, but maybe some people don't understand that that's an option to click
That
onto
could be
it.
me. Blue may not signal whatever it is. So there's artists register and arts register.
I think you need to go into
You're-
ICO.org.
oh, I'm in
You're just in the internet.
go down to the, if you go down to the, okay.
Yeah.
You can go down to the bottom and get there too.
button.
So it
We'll
might
get
not
there.
hurt to just look at it now and learn how to use it. What's there. Okay.
You're probably a,
Do you want me to? Yeah, okay, I can sit there. I'm okay. So say, for instance, if you go into Aaron's and click on his name, that's his website. And the same thing would be true for yours.
Oh, okay.
Now, some artists actually don't have websites, but if they don't have websites, then I've included their email address minimally, because that's all they have.
Yeah.
You know, so at least there's, so
This
it's
just
all
looks so
there, it's just a matter
different,
of,
From when I looked at it, this looks very different. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I looked at it too soon. I could look at
well,
Becky-
and, you know, the
Becky Lee's.
limitation here is we can only include one image, and we can't do anything creative with it in terms of putting images side by side or otherwise. So, yeah, we did what we could.
Let's see Cheryl's. Oh, so did that go right to her
yeah,
website?
they all do if
Okay.
they have a website.
All right. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I think this is probably as good as it's ever going to be able to get on our website. The
Yeah.
database, I know needs some fine tuning, just because it's just a little clunky, and I think it needs some step-by-step instructions in terms of how you can use it.
Well, yeah, all I was interested in was doing this together to
Yeah.
see, you know, how you go through it. And then the little village weighed in. So I thought, oh, then there is something worse that, it's not just me. But I'll try to do this at home and see if I can get
Okay.
there more easily. Thank you.
All right, so we've,
Okay. Close that.
have we wrapped that up?
Well, we didn't wrap it. Now I got to get out of this thing. Yeah, I think, have we wrapped up, talked about everything you wanted to talk about on that? Okay.
Okay, so to continue on, what I did was I took some of the key points, and I think you already talked about this, on the projects or some ideas that came out of the survey, as well as, and then under that other, these are all things that we've talked about internally as a committee that didn't necessarily show up on the survey. The one thing that I have a question mark, the parks, trails, and buildings and grounds, that came out high on the ranking. So this graph was included. But at the same time, we also had a lot of negative comments about putting more art in parks and trails, that there were a lot of people that felt that they wanted to keep that, continue to be more of a natural situation. So I didn't quite know what to do with that. It kind of balances itself out in some respects. So I just left it very, very vague. The rest of them, again, were more key points. The dollar values that I put in there are just off the top of my head. If we're going to have a decent quality project, what would that cost? Just to give you an idea, because I think that's probably one of the harder things. And I'm not suggesting that many of those couldn't be funded at a higher level and be a more robust opportunity, so,
But they would require minimum those numbers.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
How much was the resource, the soil mural? How much did we allocate for that on the resource management?
For the research,
building?
that was 6,000,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
But that didn't come out of public art.
But that
Right.
wasn't,
It didn't?
yeah,
Right, no, that came
wasn't
out of the
public art.
climate action money.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
they paid for that, but the budget was 6,000.
Marcia, in terms of parks, trails, buildings, and grounds, do you think there should be a separation between buildings and grounds and parks and trails? Those are two
It
different
could.
environments.
It could, it was just included as a group
Of public.
But it's so very
within the
different.
survey results.
When you
so,
said that,
and
you
public
know,
property.
some people think that should be more natural. I don't think they'd have that comment for buildings and grounds. So it's a very different perception of places. I don't know what you can do about it now. Is there anything?
Well, we could split that into 2 lines.
Yeah, that's a start.
So I would suggest that rather than having 4 smaller projects of the 2, 3, 5, 5, I would much rather see those combined into one more marquee type project, just also because of our ability as a committee to get that number of projects done in a year. And I don't have a preference on which category it would end up in. But to me, it seems like we would have more impact with one site and one something with 15,000 instead of 4 smaller projects. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like you'd also get more interest from people with a higher budget.
I think to that issue is the amount of time it takes for us to assess each one of these little tiny things. I'd rather put our concentrated effort on a larger project. It has more impact to the artist and maybe to the public. I don't know how you can weigh whether a $2,000 or a $15,000 project impacts the public, but in terms of impacting an artist's budget and helping them expand their professional and competitive edge, it's significant. And I think we often don't focus on that aspect of this committee's responsibilities or considerations, we'll put it that way.
Do we, I would just second what Steve and Julie said, or third, I guess, just to combine them, because mirroring what everybody else is saying, yeah, it seems to would be more impactful, so.
So are you suggesting, say, not doing,
Like 2 and 3 and 5, let's just put it all, let's take $15,000 and then clump it under like one heading that covers it all. Good luck with that.
I'm just making sure that our numbers are, like, is what's in there currently, does that add up, that 39,800, does that add up, is that the right
yeah,
number?
that is in a formula there.
Okay, and that's,
So we're over the amount that we can budget.
Right.
With these very rough figures, yeah, which don't really mean a whole lot, but
See,
So
to
we
me,
need to-
that says we have enough for the Gateway Airport mural, and that's about it.
right, because we need to get that $39,000 number down to 30?
1,600?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would actually make a motion for that our budget be for the Gateway Airport mural, and then the items listed under other for this coming year.
And then remove these.
Yes.
I'll just put them over here for now. That gets you to 24,800 anyway.
Can you talk a little bit more about the 5,000 for oracles, what that would go to?
that was purely just an idea that came out of, continuing on the Oracle's mission, was to specify that projects needed to go to BIPOC artists. Now, we can do that with any and all of the other projects as well. But if we wanted something specific, and I guess in this instance, I'd prefer to work with the artist team from Oracle's to kind of come up with how that would look, whether it would be a takeoff of the mural work or, fellowships that they've talked about continuing. So it was I just threw it out there because I didn't want it to get lost. And again, that's mentioned too in the ARPA.
I wonder, would it be I'm thinking out loud here, but like just saying something like opportunities for BIPOC artists, and then we can consult with the Oracle's team. But if they say, hey, you know what would be great is this other idea, and it's not really related to the Oracles of Iowa City, if we just made that a little more general.
Like that.
Yeah.
I was going to make a comment. I know Dawson Davenport had applied for a matching grant last year to do a work on the indigenous history of what was formerly / is Black Hawk Mini Park. That had this committee very excited, and there also was a comment in the feedback addressing that same topic. So if that, I guess, expanding that, but if we wanted something concrete in mind, I would propose that as a potential avenue to explore.
For the BIPOC?
Yeah, if we're looking to, for categories for BIPOC artists.
Well, I know even in the survey, there was some consistent responses related to indigenous populations and.
So, just, are we all not sensitive enough to these issues, these concerns about diversity? Isn't it something that we've been, as individuals or professionals, conscious of and for a very long time? And as a part of the members of the community, we are hopefully focused on that. Do we really need to have a special category on top of, I mean, our normal considerations, or however it's outlined in our mission? Have we not?
I think that's kind of what we're saying. Yeah, that like our general avenues are not
Focused enough?
reaching out enough to those
Okay.
communities.
So would this budget item be something that we would consider every year then, as this will be the one, or, I mean, is that what this is?
Not necessarily. We're just looking at this budget year.
Okay.
Just a point of order, I had a motion on the table that either needs a second or it needs to be.
Well, to take all those out, we're under the budget now. So should we talk through how to allocate the additional 5,200?
Okay, so I'll officially withdraw the motion and we'll start.
Okay,
over.
sounds good.
Can I make a motion to establish the Gateway's airport mural, or a Gateway mural potentially at the airport, as the primary project? That's the end of my
And I
motion.
would second that.
Okay. Any further discussion on that, or should we take?
Is there any participation from the airport in this project?
From what Judy Full said last meeting, that they didn't really have the funding. Whether or not they have the opportunity to do a fundraising, I think we need to pursue that. But I don't think we can guarantee it. $8,000 would provide a mural that, for the expansiveness of those hangars, is not going to have a whole lot of detail. And so I think they're just going to have to decide whether or not they want to contribute more and get something with more.
I can't hear you. What did you just say, the last sentence?
Just the $8,000 would get them a mural, but it wouldn't be a very detailed mural. If they wanted to kind of go bigger and more detailed, they would have to raise their own funds.
Okay, so then that kind of leaves us where?
Well, there's a motion on the table, I guess, to kind of solidify that 8,000, and we can keep moving down. But if we want to do a quick
Okay.
all in
well,
favor on 8,000 for the mural.
Well, I want to talk, I agree, it's just not enough money.
What, the 8,000 for the?
8,000 for a mural that size. And I think we need to plan ahead so that, we don't end up, they need another 4,000 for paint or whatever, because expenses go up. So is there any way we can make that a larger number? Or so it's a successful project if we don't have any co-investors?
I mean,
So
go
do we
ahead.
have an extra 5,000 in our budget? Isn't that what we said? I'm looking at the 24.8 and the available to commit 30,600. So can we take, what is everybody's thoughts on?
I think 4 is good.
Hopefully I'm not out of line here, but my
not reading
personal
it right.
opinion is that, like, the airport commission came to us and said, we want a mural, but they didn't say, they have a budget, and
Right, I agree. I don't
like, I
wanna-
think that if we brought 8,000 to it, that's enough to, like, kickstart it. It's gonna happen. There's gonna be a mural,
kickstart
but
it.
they can, if they could match, 50% of
okay.
that and bump it up to 12,000, that seems like
I think match
fair.
8,000 and bump it up to 16,000. That's an outrageously large expanse.
Right. I mean, that whole, the 6,000 for the sustainability mural, the compost
Yeah.
one.
I mean,
and
that
that was
was-
very detailed.
That was a community paint project, so that,
True.
a little bit, sometimes coordination of those events takes more time than actually painting it yourself, but, she did have that.
So, yeah, I mean,
But the,
I would rather
I
take.
think this would be an adequate amount of seed money for them to spur them on to,
And for that to be,
possibly do some
I
additional
agree with the
fundraising.
notion of larger projects, kind of more impact, but it feels like we could take those numbers on the side and allocate it so that we get one more, like we could put out an RFP for, or maybe we put it all towards, I don't know. I like the idea of keeping it open, maybe those, whether it's community participatory art or performing art, any of those, or just a general RFP for $6,000 or something that would, that doesn't quite feel like enough to have another project, but
You could
I'm just
also-
feeling
You could also bump up matching funds or neighborhood art project to,
I'd rather do that. If we put the extra 5,000 or 4,000, whatever it is, in the matching fund, and then that way if some other, I don't know who would come to us and say, could you pony up some money for, a project, a different gateway project, maybe it's at North Dodge or Dubuque Street or something, and we could say, yeah, we've got $25,000. Not saying we could use all of it, but we could use some of it for a match, and that would be a pretty significant piece of, because it does seem that people do like the gateway art.
But the 20,000 in matching funds is that our matching fund program, which is divvied up into a bunch of, $2,000 projects.
Yeah, I'd like to reduce that number, so we have all $5,000 projects, so we're not just, attending to the details of a lot of stuff that is, I guess ephemeral in terms of financial investment or impact on an artist's life. They're working for free still, in a way. It's not considering what it is to be an artist and how much it costs. Costs everything an artist has. So I wish we could think about sums that actually support them,
You're saying raise the threshold of, or the maximum amount allowed within the matching grants?
Yes. So we have fewer of them to consider, and ones that are more robust or healthier for artists, for an impact on an artist's
Is there any
life.
history there of, has that number ever fluctuated within the matching grant program? Has that number fluctuated within the matching grant program? Has it ever been more or less than 2,000?
it's always been 2,000. Yeah, I understand the argument, not the argument, the move towards wanting to increase it.
Yeah, because $2,000, it just doesn't seem like it's enough anymore.
Do we need to decide that?
But it's part of
now?
it, I'm sorry.
But we still get,
I mean, like, I know we need, the level of our consideration right now is just the amount we want to go to the matching art program fund in general, and then we can have a later discussion when we put out our first call
Yes.
for matching funds about the ceiling
Okay.
or lack thereof for an application.
Yeah, and I only threw in the matching fund question mark under performing arts because we have done that in the past, and we've had specific matching funds for performing arts. So it doesn't have to be a matching fund program.
I had a motion on the floor. I don't know if I need to remove it. It was just to state that our funding priority is a gateway project. I didn't assign a number value to it, if that.
Oh, I thought
Eliminates the discussion.
you were focusing on the airport mural specifically
Oh.
as a gateway. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. That's what has been presented to us recently. So if that's like an avenue we wanted to pursue, I guess. But I guess to clarify, my motion was
Okay.
to make
Okay.
the gateway project
I'll second that.
our
It's a gateway project.
funding priority.
Funding priority.
Is there any further discussion on that
Sorry.
motion, or should we take a vote? Okay, all in favor of making a gateway project our funding priority for next year?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so
Still
with
in-
that in mind, are we saying that the airport mural is the gateway project?
It's just not funded well enough for the expense of the size of that wall. It's not enough money.
But that's
What
a
I'm hearing in
match.
our motion is that, no,
It is a
should,
match?
it should just say gateway project there
Yeah.
instead of airport mural specifically. And we may consider airport mural at a future meeting,
Oh,
but it's just a gateway project.
Yes.
it's just an illustration,
Right,
not a
such, yes, there you go.
actuality.
Right. So the second part, I would say, the other items down below, do we want to have discussion? I was going to make a motion, but maybe we want more discussion before I do that.
What's your thought?
My motion would be to fund those 4 items as shown under other.
I think so.
Which 4 items?
You're just
For
saying make
other.
an other category?
So the other category that's listed there, I would suggest
Yeah.
that our
Oh,
next
got it.
part of this would be to approve the 6,000 for the sculpture showcase, the 5,000 specifically for BIPOC artists, 2,000 for maintenance, and 3,800 to continue the work of the Oracles of Iowa City. Or no,
That's all right.
pay
We've
for
already
their
approved
overage.
that, right? So we're just looking at the 6.5 and the 2,000.
so I take that back, the 6,500 and the 2.
Yeah. And that leaves you with 5,800.
And that was a motion?
That was a motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You just have to figure out the 5,800, or we leave it as a cushion.
Put it with a
Done that in the
gateway
past.
project so that it has some impact.
I like that idea.
I think that's.
You think what?
I think that's good.
Okay.
I mean, I guess, and if we wanted to be nebulous, right, we could say up to that combined amount if we like a project, but we don't think it needs a full amount, but.
And we can always adjust these things, right? Like if some other project came along that we all fell in love with more than the airport mural, it could be, we could change our mind on that, or,
Well, this is not an airport mural. It's just a gateway project. Correct?
So are we saying we would do ask for proposals for gateway art projects, and the airport could indeed
Join in.
Yeah.
place a request in based on that, and part of our scoring would be the concept and the ability to match or to
I like it.
contribute,
Yeah,
so.
I like that idea.
Oh,
And since we have only one large project, we should be able to accomplish that, I would
So in
think.
terms of gateway projects, though, I mean, I think we should identify the location or be in control of some of the parameters like any other project that goes out. You can't just say, oh, what do you want to do? I mean, that is not a normal method of working with public art.
Sure, that's fine. I think that would be it when we discuss the RFP, how we want to do it.
Yeah, and the
That's where you would
locations would be
decide the-
discussed then.
Okay,
So-
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
So if we
Balanced, right?
maybe just delete
that.
the such as airport mural and just say gateway project. And
Just
then
remove it, yeah.
that would
There you go.
that totals up. All right.
But you can't do an RFP until you know what the
Well,
project is.
yeah, we'll
Right.
talk about that later.
Sorry.
Oh.
It is hard to hear with these masks, very muffled.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm a little confused. Are we looking at funding an airport mural or not? Because I think we're sending two different messages by what we've talked about here today. We've talked about, oh yeah, we'll fund $8,000 for an airport mural, which was going to be a gateway project. Now we're saying, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do an RFP that may include a place for a mural. I guess we're sending some
That's where we're
mixed
at.
messages here in regards to what we're actually.
We've opened it up so that it can be potentially any gateway location with any type of project.
Yeah, and if the airport
And-
doesn't have any, they can't match anything.
I guess, but how can they even, how can they even start their process of trying to fundraise for a mural if we're not, if our seed funding isn't going to be there, right? I mean, they can't start going to donors and start asking for money unless they're looking at funding their whole project, whatever that dollar amount may be.
I don't disagree.
So,
Sorry.
well,
But
the
I
airport.
guess what I'm hearing is that we don't have consensus of actually funding the actual proposal for the airport, but there is an interest in doing some sort of gateway project, which if their proposal was developed a little bit further, could be a consideration for that, but it could be something else. Is that clarify
Ron,
it, or is that?
Maybe they should just say, we're going to work out what we can work out in our budget so that we know what to do, instead of us saying, okay, we're going to start it. If the airport wants something there, they can plunk down whatever it is they think is reasonable, because I don't think they're going to go on beyond what is reasonable, regardless of what we say.
They just don't have any, I mean, when they came last time to present the idea, they don't have any expertise in that. They were looking to us
They don't know how to make a budget.
They don't know how much a mural costs. They don't know who to go to get a design for a mural. They're looking to us to kind of help them through that process, which, isn't traditionally our role, but.
So if we do an RFP out for a gateway project, is it feasible that the airport or, yeah, I understand, Ron, where you're going now that I'm saying it out loud.
And I guess that's fine. I guess I don't know. It's confusing me of, we start off talking about an airport project and we've completely pulled away from that. And there again, how do you?
One, I think to go
I
back
don't care if
to last month and to
project.
previous conversations is that the committee felt that a mural project at the airport had the support of the airport. They took the time to come and walk through their interest on that and provided a presentation. It is in an area of town where there is no public art. That's been kind of forgotten in some respects, and they were willing to coordinate the project. So those were all the pros that were kind of left us, or it left, I think, staff with the indication that the committee wanted to go that direction.
And when they say they're going to coordinate the program, what did that mean? They're going to put out a call for artists, they're going to manage it?
Well, no, I mean, they would, I would assist them with that, like I do with anything else,
Okay.
but they would make the site available. They would do whatever was necessary on their end to provide the mural space.
provide
access to it. So that's where
access.
it was left last month.
So now we have 13,800 for a gateway project. It doesn't exclude the airport project, correct? It's a gateway project.
I am concerned that 13,500 for a gateway project on its own, particularly if we're talking sculpture or otherwise, is not going to be adequate.
No.
For much of anything. I think when I put out the $8,000, I was thinking about the airport mural.
And having it matched with another 8,000?
No, I was just I was saying that is that is a minimum amount of money that I think a mural could be created in that space.
Yeah,
and it may not be something that completes the entire wall, but it would still be something.
Well, if they have to paint that, to cover it, if they have to put a coating of paint on it, they'll have to pay for that paint. So they could pay for the paint. That's a lot of paint.
They don't have to use the whole wall.
So they could decide how much paint they can afford. I mean, just in terms of starting a process with them.
So I have a thought. What if I can't make a motion, but what if we go back to 8,000 for the airport project and just call it what it is? It's the airport mural that was proposed last month, and then leave the remaining 5,800 in a other to be determined fund.
Well, and I think if you want to go that direction, I'm very happy to talk with the commission, the airport commission members, and suggest the committee would like to see additional fundraising included as part of this.
So how much of a match are you going to ask for, like we ask for when we, do matching grants? How much of a match are you going to tell them they need to raise?
Well, doesn't it depend on how much the artist says it will cost to do a mural that they want? And if they know they only have $8,000 from our budget, then, and say the mural is going to cost $15,000, then they'll know they'll have to raise $7,000. But if it only costs $10,000, they'll only have to raise $2,000. But I don't think we have to decide that now.
This would just be the contribution the committee is willing to make to a mural project.
What I kind of like about having a little bit of money in a slush fund, for lack of a better word, is that, as we're great, in bold even, as we, reach out to the Oracles team about opportunities for BIPOC artists, if something comes up that's like, if we had $8,000 for that, it would be awesome. We could do that, as opposed to limited it to 5, or, as we look at sculptor showcase locations, instead of 3, we could do 4, because there's these perfect 4 spots or something. It just gives us a little more flexibility. But
In terms of the BIPOC artist, I was glad that you brought up Mr. Davenport. Could we look back at his proposal, or could we focus the BIPOC on his proposal, or expansion of, or help him create a location for that
Well, and we can talk about that as we get closer to
Okay.
being more specific with those funding.
So right now, we have approval for the Gateway project. We have approval for the other projects minus the slush fund. So we need a motion to have the $5,800 be available for other projects.
I'll make a motion to essentially approve the fiscal year '22 budget allocation worksheet with 5,800 going to miscellaneous slush fund and $8,000 going towards a gateway project such as the airport.
But what happened to the priority project, all that money? Is that just
Scroll
Sitting
down.
over there?
Scroll up.
That is the priority project, right?
Yeah, the biggest
Oh,
chunk of the budget is the
well-
Is still the Gateway.
Gateway mural.
So I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yay. We have a budget.
Okay. You do.
Is there any timing of those things you wanted to talk about, or is that for future?
I'm sure the airport is going to want to know,
The what?
the airport.
The airport.
The airport's going to want to know what the response was, so we can start moving on that. I guess I don't see probably the project occurring until next spring. The matching funds, we've already got a second date for March, I believe, February, March. So that's already in the works. Sculptors Showcase, we'll work on that in the spring, and locations for that. The BIPOC, yeah, I think that might be something
You reach out.
to start
the
talking through a little
conversation.
bit more for the next meeting, the direction for that.
Staff reports? Do you have any?
The only thing I have to add is that Anna Clauser, my intern, is working on a Google map that is interactive, that you can click on different locations and actually see the artwork.
That's awesome.
So there's an image of the artwork, there's information about the artist. We're working on beefing that up a little bit more. So that will be included front and center on the Public Art webpage. We also created a major article there for the Oracles mural, primarily because there's a lot of information out there that's in a lot of different locations, so we thought we'd consolidate it and at least connect it with the Public Art program.
There's this to-be scheduled thing about the artist registry categories at the bottom of our agenda. Is that something we need to discuss?
What those are.
Yeah,
Oh, is that left over from?
That's left over
Nancy
from a
wanted to
previous-
talk about that.
Oh, another
Sometimes
time.
We just keep carrying.
Club.
Amen. All right. I did want to just mention that Marcia sent out the event invite, but the Jason Snell's performance that we funded through matching grants is opening up, or is happening tomorrow night in the alley. So,
What time?
yeah.
I know I read that, but what time is it tomorrow?
It's at sunset, so I think 6 to 8 is what they said.
Okay, 6 to 8.
Probably will actually start like 6:30 or so, once it gets a little darker. Yeah, all right. Anything else? Wow. Motion?
Motion adjourn?
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody.